think we've got anyone at the moment. So we're also missing Alderman Sexton, who'll be joining the meeting shortly. And also Councillor Dutta is currently missing. So
Yeah,
at
Chairman.
this point, thank you very much, Alderman Sexton. Councillor Dutta, are you? I can't see you, so I'm assuming you're not there. So at this point, we have no one to co-op. We have present. We have myself. Oh, sorry, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Coates. I can ask for those to be co-opted if. There's Alderman Sexton, would you please nominate both those councillors to be co-opted, please? Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's it's accepted. So thanks very much, Councillor Coates and also Councillor Harvey, and for the Lord Mayor. So look, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, confirmation of the minutes of. Isn't he? All right, so look, at this stage, we'll most likely have Councillor Harvey very shortly. The confirmation of the minutes from the last meeting of the open meeting was the 30th of January 2020. So someone could move that they be accepted. Alderman Sexton? Alderman Sexton or Councillor Coates?
My hand's up, Chair. My hand's up, Chairman. You have to look at the hand.
I'm sorry. I'll just assume. Thank you. So I'll put that. Alderman Sexton has proposed that the minutes of that January meeting be accepted. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Against?
Aye.
No one is against. That's good. Consideration of supplementary items. There are no supplementary items. Indications of pecuniary and conflicts of interest on the open. There being none. Transfer of agenda items from the open or the closed agenda. Thank you. I'll move therefore to reports. The first report is 6.1, Antarctic Cities Project, Hobart Specific Summaries and Update. And I'm pleased to welcome to the meeting Professor Juan Salazar, the lead chief investigator, and Ms. Chloe Power, the Antarctic Youth Ambassador. Welcome to you both. Thank you for taking the time, and we've allocated you 15 minutes. Please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all the councillors and members of the Economic Development and Communications Committee for inviting us today, and to the Lord Mayor for the ongoing support to this project. Special thanks to Tim Short and to Lucy Knott, the Senior Advisor, Economic Development and Community Life, for developing the report that has been shared with you all for this meeting, and the wonderful collaboration over the past 3 years, of which we feel very proud. As the chairman said, I'm a professor at Western Sydney University. I'm joined today also by Professor Elizabeth Lin from UTAS, who is the co-leader of the project, and Chloe Power, who is the Hobart youth leader in the project and a UTAS graduate, who is going to also talk to you. We won't take too much time, and we hope to summarize some of the outcomes to date for the City of Hobart's perspective, which have to do mostly with working in partnership with the City of Hobart to develop a heightened and more nuanced understanding of the city's connection to Antarctica, how to best engage with the Hobart youth in these matters, and a series of tools that we have developed that we could hope to be of assistance to policy and city decision makers. If we can change the slide, please. As the report says, we think that the project that we have been undertaking for 3 years speaks directly and contributes to the City of Hobart strategic planning and policy considerations. And these are some of the overall objectives of the project that we have achieved in the last 3 years. We have been working with City of Council to think of these cities not only as gateway cities to the Antarctic and how strong they are, but also how the cities embrace a sense of an Antarctic urban identity. Next slide, please. There's 16 researchers that have participated in the project in 5 countries and in 6 cities. There's 144 media pieces. The project has received a lot of media coverage, not only in Hobart, but nationally in Australia through national TV, national radio, and internationally. We have had workshops across in the 5 cities with a lot of participation in Hobart, close to 150 urban experts, over 3,000 people we have reached through the project, including 2 surveys with very important findings that we're going to be providing in full to the city of Hobart by October, with very important findings about the perceptions of residents of the city of Hobart about the role of government, the role of the city, as well as how they perceive the connections of their city to the Antarctic. And as Chloe will speak to you in the last 5 minutes, we led a very successful expedition to the Antarctic with 5 young leaders, 1 from each of the cities. And Chloe is one of the leaders now of the Antarctic Youth Coalition, which is a very original and the first time internationally that something like this has been done. Next slide, please. And the next one. I think it's important for us to report back that of the cash commitment made by the city of Hobart over 3 years of $60,000, as promised, we were able to demonstrate an economic multiplier to the local economy, reinvesting back over 200,000 back in Hobart through employment of casual employment, as well as hiring local service providers. We have had an extensive social media campaign. We have over 500 followers on Twitter and in Instagram. Next slide, please. These are all the organizations that we have collaborated with and have been part of the workshop. So you can see a wide variety of stakeholders from Hobart have engaged in our project. Next slide. And especially we've developed a few very important engagement with youth. For the city of Hobart, when we first met in 2015, one of the priorities for the city was to develop engagement with youth. We participated in the Antarctic Festival in 2018, and we developed an online game which comes with an educational package that is going to be rolled out in some schools and university courses. Next slide. Part of the tools that we develop is the sustainability profile, which is a consensus building tool for visualizing sustainability across 4 domains. And some of the organizations that I mentioned earlier took part in the development of the first profile for Hobart. This is a tool that is used by other cities, including the city of Berlin, for the last 5 years. Next slide. And it's also a useful tool to compare to the other cities that are part of the project. And next slide, please. We also developed an index that needs a bit further refinement, which will help the cities measure on an ongoing basis their connectivity to the Antarctic based on those 4 domains: economic connectivity, political connectivity, cultural connectivity, and environmental connectivity. Next slide. This is part of the game that was co-designed through workshops in all of the cities. We had 3 workshops in Hobart with over 50 young people participating in the co-design. It has received excellent feedback from science communicators, scientists, and young people. And as I said, comes with an educational resource package. Next slide. The last part of the project that is very important for Hobart, and we've been discussing with the Lord Mayor, this is a photograph of a public forum we held in 2018, and you can see Tim Short there and the Lord Mayor and some of the partners from Punta Arenas and Christchurch, is the development of a draft charter of principles for Antarctic cities that we think Hobart could lead, inviting the mayors of the other cities to really come up with an idea and a plan for how the cities can work together and have a charter of activities with some practical outcomes out of this. Next slide. Now I'm going to pass on to Chloe to talk a little bit about the Antarctic Youth Coalition and the expedition that we had to Antarctica in February. Chloe?
Hello everyone, thank you for listening to Juan and I today. So I'm just going to really quickly run through the final part of the Antarctic Cities project, which is the Antarctic Youth Coalition. So in August, September 2019, the project participants and partners in each of the 5 cities selected a young person from each to represent their cities and travel to Antarctica for a 1-week expedition. And next slide, please. And this is who we are. So we have Katia, who is an English teacher from Punta Arenas in Chile, Rudzani, an oceanography student from Cape Town in South Africa, Florencia, a marketing and business graduate and also an avid photographer from Ushuaia in Argentina, Caleb, a law and chemistry student from Christchurch, New Zealand, and myself, Chloe, a marine scientist and an avid science communicator here from Hobart. Next slide, thank you. So we all brought something a little bit different to the table with our mixture of skills. So the Antarctic Cities Youth Expedition, this was in February, earlier this year. And we travelled down there along with Juan and Elizabeth, and we stayed on a Chilean research station, and we sort of had an insight of what it was like to live and work on a research station, and really get a feel of what Antarctica is like. But it wasn't all fun and games outside enjoying this, amazing landscape. It was also a chance for us to all come together and brainstorm some ideas of where we can then go when we come back to our cities, and what we can bring back to each city. So next slide, please. So after copious amounts of hot chocolate and tea, we brainstormed and had lots of discussions about what we envision an Antarctic Youth Coalition. What does that mean? So we came up with a lot of things down there. First being, next slide, please. First being our vision. So we came up with, we want cities to come together and embrace the values of Antarctica for the protection not only of Antarctica, but of our shared futures. And to get that vision, we came up with the mission, which would be to build a network of 5 young custodians, young custodians across the 5 Antarctic gateway cities, advocating for the future of Antarctica by promoting sustainability and also a sense of connectedness. So next slide, please. So our focus isn't, it's obviously Antarctic cities and the young people who live within them, but we want to be clear that it's not just young people. So it can be people from all different age groups, but this is our focus, is the youth. And our organisation will focus on devising a youth engagement network in each of our cities, and most importantly, develop a sense of Antarctic custodianship, which will be unique to all the gateways. Next slide, please. So our strategic overview, the document that I'm sure you have access to. So we came up with what are the Antarctic values. So we observed and experienced these values down on our expedition. So our founding expedition is basically what how our values were born. And the first one was international cooperation and collaboration, and that was so prominent, in which we saw on our expedition of all these different international research stations coming together and working together. So we wanted to bring a piece of that back into our home cities. So we want to maintain communication between the 5 gateway cities, which we've been doing. We have fortnightly Zoom meetings, which is great with the time differences, but we have made it work since February. The second one being care and protection of our environment. So this one is a really important thing that we want to come onto this is we want to incorporate Indigenous stories and knowledge of how to care for country and for land and for territory. So that one will go onto here. And also science and learning. So Hobart is, I guess, it has the highest concentration of Antarctic scientists in the world, but unfortunately a lot of this science is full of jargon, and the average community member wouldn't really understand a lot of the science that's going down there. So we want to really bring that accessibility of Antarctic science to the wider public and especially to youth. So our goals were, I guess, building a youth engagement networks in the gateway cities. and creating new connections between these gateway cities. Now, we have a lot of ideas for this, even just a quite simple one, like a visual identity that links Ushuaia, Punta Arenas, Christchurch, Cape Town, and Hobart with something like a signpost that has, you know, all the distance from Hobart to each of those cities. And we also want to foster a sense of Antarctic custodianship as well in each of these cities, which will also, that Indigenous link will come in quite handy as well when we want to learn about more about protecting our country and our land. Next slide, please. So after reading some of the city vision document, it really links really well with our Antarctic Youth Coalition values. So Hobart is a city defined by the wild weather and as a gateway to Antarctica. And we want to really, I guess, strengthen this connection as well. So like I said before, with things like the signpost or possible events, you know, we were planning to have a presence at the Australian Antarctic Festival this year. So the arts and culture, like the public art programs and Creative Hobart program, could really be a great way for us to get those ideas out and to get youth interested as well, because art, I think, is a really great way to get youth interested. Next slide, please. So as a coalition, what we hope to do for the upcoming future is, I guess, our short-term plans are to recruit our members. And like I said, these can be from all different age groups. It doesn't just have to be just from youth. We'll aim to have monthly informal meetings in each city. So possibly even the Youth Performing Arts Centre, I believe, would be a great spot to host some of these meetings, or possibly at IMAS. We need to grow our social media following a little bit. Obviously, with COVID, it has been a little bit hard to, I guess, talk about travel and Antarctica and things like this. But our long term, I guess, hopefully next year, the Antarctic Festival will go ahead and we can have a little stall there, maybe even some merchandise. We really want to work with the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as well. We really want to incorporate Indigenous stories and knowledge of how to care for country, and also creating events at schools, in the community, etc., to really focus back on that science and learning value of getting Antarctic science and what is happening not only in Antarctica, but other Southern Ocean issues and sustainability issues into schools and into the community in a way that everyone can understand. And next slide. So at the moment, this is where you can find us. We do have a Facebook page, and we also have an Instagram page. It is, it's slowly growing. Yeah, we need to, we'll have some more content coming up soon, and also our website as well. So thank you for listening to us today. I'm really appreciative of your time.
Thank you, Chloe, and sorry for rushing through. It's difficult to summarize 3 years of project in 15 minutes, but hopefully the details that you have in front of you are a summary of what's coming in the full report in October. This is a unique project, and we're very confident that the findings and recommendations to the City of Hobart will be very useful. There's a legacy after the end of the project that ends in December through the Antarctic Youth Coalition and the game. So there is things that are going to remain in Hobart after the completion of the project. And there's a real opportunity for Hobart to lead the other cities through leadership in the Charter of Principles for Antarctic Cities that we are developing with the interest of the Lord Mayor. So thank you all for listening. And again, sorry for rushing through.
No, thank you, Professor Salazar, and also Ms. Power. That was excellent. We are pressed for time, so if there's a member of the committee who would move that this report be received and noted, we will look forward to hearing from you when the report is finalised. Could I have somebody to make that recommendation, please? Lord Mayor, thank you. Lord Mayor, you're moving for it to be noted. Received and
Thank
noted.
you.
Thank you. I'll put that to the, thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll put that to the vote of the members present. All those in favour say aye. Against? Then I'm seeing that it's been carried. Thank you. I'll now move to the, before I move to the second item, 6.2, we have Councillor Harvey here now. I'll just get someone, please. Perhaps Alderman Sexton, you can again move for all Councillor Harvey to be seconded to the committee. Is that you, Lord Mayor, seconding Alderman Councillor Harvey? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Or anyone against that?
Aye.
I don't see anyone. Thank you. So, Councillor Harvey, welcome. The next report is Business Events Tasmania, the annual funding submission. And I'll invite Marnie Craig, the Chief Executive of Business Events Tasmania. You've got 10 minutes if you need it, Marnie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Lord Mayor and councillors. I will go through as fast as I possibly can. I understand everyone's pressed for time. Just the next slide, thanks. So just a very quick recap for those of you not familiar with Business Events' role. So Business Events is responsible for bringing about 36,000 business event delegates to the state each year, importantly, we bring visitors to the economy during the shoulder and winter periods. Typically between May and July, August is a peak season for conferencing. Business event travellers are the highest yielding in the visitor economy, and they also have many legacies beyond just visitation.
I'll just hang on a sec. I'll just mute myself. Sorry.
Welcome to the new world of meetings. I'll get the next slide if I can, please. So the role of Business Event Tasmania, we're a membership organisation, and we are supported by the state government and local government. We perform two roles, so we actually bid directly for conferences and business events to be held in Tasmania, but we also have a role to market the destination and connect our client base directly with our members and operators within the hospitality sector. Next slide, please. Look, another slide. Are we still there?
Right, Craig, can you hear us?
I'm back now. I just heard you then. Is that?
Yeah.
I lost. Did I lose you or did? Yes.
No, I think our screens froze, Marnie. So the presentation froze. Craig, have you got? Can you bring the presentation back up?
Yeah, one moment. We just lost connection to the Zoom servers, and it's now re-established.
I'll just talk to the slide so we can probably keep skipping on. The next slide basically is just, you know, we greatly value our relationship with the city and the support we receive from the city. It's critical to our business, and obviously we're all facing a new unprecedented time to say. So this year with our annual funding, with working with the city, we're asking for 50% of the funding. Obviously, as I said, critical to our business to continue, but appreciative of the challenges that we all face as we move through COVID. Are we back on? Next, I will jump to the next slide. So I wanted to focus a little bit on COVID-19 and what that means. Obviously, the business event sector has been one of the hardest hit, and it is still a little too early to predict how we'll emerge from the pandemic. And obviously, we're seeing constant changes in other states at the moment. But this just gives you a bit of an idea of what's happened to our marketplace. Interestingly, business events, it's quite an optimistic story as far as tourism goes and the visitor economy. We've seen a large proportion, so 65% actually postponed to either next year or the year after. So we've worked really hard to try to capture as much as we possibly can. We also have 8 business events still to take place this year, but we anticipate with the current activities that is likely to push into next year. And we've seen 24% of our business from this year cancelled. Next slide. I think business events becomes a really strong part of the recovery for the city. With so much of our business postponing to future years, we actually have very strong bookings for next year, particularly at the moment. Most of the numbers you can see there for 2021 are really around the May period, April to May, and then the other numbers. So we actually have quite a peak of business still locked in to Hobart from May to August next year. So hopefully, if everything comes back on and we can host business events and our airlines are back, we will see very strong activity within Hobart. What we are seeing at the moment is, and it may be on the next slide I can talk to if you want to jump ahead. This is our sales funnel. That just gives you an idea of our sales funnel is work and pieces of business that we actually are already working on and developing for future years. So our lead times are 2 to 3 years out. So basically, there's still a very strong funnel of activity and strong bookings that we're seeing. So if you want to jump to the next slide, probably the interesting thing that has happened for us from COVID is we actually have had 35 bids in the last 4 weeks, which is a very high volume and certainly much higher than we anticipated to occur at this time. But Tasmania, and particularly Hobart, is presenting as a very strong draw card for corporate and incentive travel, which is the highest yielding in our sector, that would ordinarily be booked internationally. So we're seeing events that would have taken place in New York, throughout Asia and Europe, are all looking to Tasmania as a possible destination. They're Australian corporations. Why this part is really important, and it's actually the biggest growth area for business events for the city, is with the new hotel developments. That's been the area of weakness in this marketplace previously, and with the new hotel developments, we're positioned perfectly with the unique experience and the brand of Tasmania. So we're seeing a very strong interest there. As I said, we've done 35 bids and we're working with 2 businesses on another 14 currently. So that's the short term. Now, all going well, they're looking to come to Hobart in February and March next year. So it's not too far away, and that will give us really strong recovery that complements the middle of the year. So that's a very good story as far as recovery goes. So I'll just jump to the next slide. The really important part of a piece of work that we do is, and certainly the longer term strategy for us, is working within what we have as our Tasmania Ambassador Program. These are businesses, this is business events that are strategically valuable to Tasmania. And we've been working closely with the team at the City of Hobart, and we believe this is perfect for Hobart to talk about and collaborate more and identify the business events that really align with the parts of our economy and trade economic development that are of highest interest to the city. With the Ambassador Program, you see knowledge exchange, and opportunities to promote Tasmania internationally. So I'll just skip to the next slide. We're nearly done. Other just additional activities that we're working on at the moment. So in the next 2 weeks, we'll be launching our new website, which showcases the unique experience and activities and operators within tourism and hospitality across Hobart, as well as all of Tasmania. Working on delegate boostings, particularly pre and post conference. We know with our delegates that at least 25% stay on and for a holiday, and they also bring 1 or more people with them. So we believe there's a real opportunity to increase that through more marketing, and we have about 12 months lead time when a conference is announced before it takes place to achieve that, and we've been working with our clients to do that. Sustainability is a really big area that we've focused on, and we've certainly worked with the city to promote this more so through our marketplace. We've worked locally with the waste team and the operators within Hobart, but more importantly, talking to our clients to ensure that business events are sustainable. We won the Professional Conference Organisers Association, so that's the conference for conference organisers. It was due to take place in December. Whilst they haven't publicly announced it, we anticipate that's will be pushed to the following year, but that they are working with us on a theme around sustainability and innovation in sustainability in hosting business events. So it's activities like this where we believe we can yield the best outcomes. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Look, thank you very much for your presentation. Is there any are there any questions from the committee at this point before we I ask someone to potentially put the recommendation on funding? Any questions? Thank you all. Councillor Harvey.
No, hi, Marnie. Thanks for your presentation there.
Thank you.
My question is around the sustainability stuff. Like, just personally, I'm considering whether or not I'll ever go to another conference by aeroplane because of the impacts of, you know, the climate emergency that the world is in. And I'd like to understand how, if people are going to continue to fly or not fly, as the case may be. And you've already mentioned that Hobart has been attracting potentially conferences away from other places because of what we've got here. My question's around the carbon offsetting sort of stuff and a collaboration with councils, not just Hobart, but other councils. All councils have various policies and strategies, and a lot of councils are looking at their tree strategies. So rather than us giving our money to a company that does the carbon offsets, I'm interested in how we could do it in partnership with councils so that they could actually roll out their tree strategies. I know Brighton has a tree strategy. Glenorchy is working on one, but they won't have the resources to actually plant and maintain trees for 5 years until they've established or replaced them if they die. And I'd love to think that we could have a strong relationship with the conference industry as an example of an industry that was supporting a local program where you could actually be involved in a local thing rather than putting your finances into the company that does it somewhere. You know, we could actually develop a program with councils, and then for me that'd make it really great to say fly to Tasmania because we can offset it in our streets in a number of councils.
Look, I'd love to discuss other options with you. One of the things I can say is with the differing marketplaces, with the corporate market that's the one that's emerging, one of the requirements for a corporate business event is to run a community program. And we've been working with both the City of Hobart, Landcare, just to identify opportunities for those corporate organisations to run a CSR program. So they have that corporate social responsibility, and it's actually a requirement for them. So For example, one of the pieces of business we're working on at the moment, there's 390 people. They would ordinarily build an orphanage in Fiji, and they're wanting to come here. And one of the activities we're looking at, they actually pay for it. They have budgeted. That particular one has a budget of $250 per person. So it's pretty significant money. And they pay the community group and tree planting through land care is one of those. And we're desperate to work with anyone that's, willing to work with us on activities. And we're working with some of the other charities. One of the difficulties, as I'm sure some of you can appreciate with charities and volunteer work, is ensuring that there's enough people to manage it for them. That's often the reason that people can't provide an activity, but we're certainly, I know tree planting is one of the things that many of those bids, and as I said before, there's been 35 in the last 4 weeks, is potentially one of the activities that they will do. I think they can only do, I think it's 150 people. So we just have to work out how we get that particularly large
Thank
group.
you. Thanks, Marnie. Members of the committee, we have a recommendation on this item on the second page. So someone prepared to move the recommendation?
I'm happy to move it, Chairman. Both parts 1 and 2.
Part 1 and 2.
If I could just put in to finish. Sorry, if I could just butt in. Marnie, I'll give you a call because I'd like to explore this a bit further. Yep.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Good. All right, I have a recommendation moved by, the recommendation in the agenda is moved by Alderman Sexton. I put that to the vote. All those in favour say, indicate aye. Anyone who is against it, please indicate now. Thank you. So that has been passed. Marnie, thank you very much, and all the very best for the year ahead. We know it's tough, and we look forward to continuing to hear how you're getting on.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your support, everyone.
That's a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving now to 6.4, which is the, sorry, not 6.4, 6.3, the major item on tonight's agenda, the economic response and recovery from COVID. I'll open the item for discussion, and note there is a recommendation on in the third page.
Yeah, Chair, I'm happy to move the item.
Session.
I'm happy to move it, and I also
thanks, Councillor Harvey.
Appreciated the workshop or the presentation we had earlier this evening. I thought that was very enlightening and explained the strategic approach to this that the officers have taken. So I think that's really the strength of this, that we're not locking in a particular thing, but we're keeping it a certain level of flexibility so we can respond quickly to whatever comes over the horizon. So I'm very supportive of the recommendation.
That's excellent. Thank you. Other comments from the committee, please?
Happy to support, Chairman.
I'll just make the comment, if I can. In the recommendation, there is an endorsement of the creation of an economic recovery business consultative group, and I know that Alderman Barakis is listening in, which is great. The reality here is that there's been an awful lot done by officers. I mean, a significant amount. This is probably the best body of work, and it's something that the state government, I hope, takes into account, given the population size, at least of the metropolitan area, and what's going on. I think it's going to be, from my view, if we endorse the creation, I still think it's going to be a big test of the general manager and the team as to who's on that committee, and to make sure it has a clear purpose and clear outcomes, because as what's been seen, we are in a completely dark sky here. It's very difficult to determine a proper way forward. We have the information, fortunately, to help us, but I'd hate to see a group come together and feel that they're really just coming together just to have a chat. Is there any comments that anyone would like to make on that respect? Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I think that's a really good point, and I noticed that the recommendation does talk about a temporary group, and I think at this point it's important not to say to people we're expecting you to sign up and we'll, have monthly meetings, and becomes more focused on the body and the process rather than the discussions. So I think keep it nimble, keep it focused on recovery and revitalisation ideas, and I think that would be the best way forward. I did have a couple of conversations with other capital cities about the models that they're using, and I think Melbourne certainly it's very much focused on CBD revitalisation, which is probably too narrow for us, but they're obviously very worried about flight from the CBD and the impact on commercial building sector in particular. But Brisbane has chosen not to have a committee of any sort, but instead just continue to have these kind of the staff staying in touch and being eyes and ears and keeping people in touch. So I certainly support the idea, but I think it's good just to at this stage refer to it as a temporary opportunity to get together and get some of those good ideas, but not build any expectation that we're sort of asking for lots of ongoing work from people.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Very good comments there, and I think very appropriate. Anybody else that are present at this meeting would like to make a comment? Alderman Barakis, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, thank you. Apologies for the glare. I'm interested in my office at work at the moment. I suppose we'll start with a question. Noting the endorsement that we formed this group, I'm just sort of curious as to why this wasn't done when it was when this was endorsed previously, or am I incorrect in that? Like, why is this coming back to us again? That part of it, because I thought we'd already agreed on this a couple of months ago.
At the appropriate time, the motion was, as I can.
Oh, okay. So now's the appropriate time to do it, righto. Okay, look. In that case, no, I'm pretty happy with what's being recommended. I think it's look, obviously I don't think this is intended on being a permanent thing. I think maybe there's the potential for having a discussion later on about having a business advisory group for the council, because we do have a large number of other advisory groups, and I think it'd be an appropriate thing. But what's being discussed now is obviously just a very specific thing, a temporary thing, as the Lord Mayor said. And look, I'm comfortable with that, so I'm happy to support that. Not that I'm a voting member right now, but I'm happy to support that.
Thank you. Any other comments on this report? I look, it's an enormous report. I endorse Councillor Harvey's comments. It was a very good briefing. It's a body of work which I would hope, if it can be through the director, continued, because I think we need to make sure it's an updated report, but it's an excellent report to use in discussions with the state and federal government for support for our city. I did make the comment in the briefing that, of course, there's no pie chart showing the amount of government at all levels in engagement in the city. So we're actually possibly in a better situation than many parts of many other Tasmanian cities or regional Australian cities. But look, it's an unknown quantity. Any other comments before we put this to the vote?
Yeah, I will make a comment that I was going to make during the briefing, and it's around, I think we might have touched on it, the way we look at the outcomes, the way we focus on outcomes, the way we measure outcomes, the way we look at, success and benchmarking and that sort of thing. And I'm not going to move any amendments or anything, but I'm just interested in how we judge what we do and how we evaluate what we do. And just to take it on, sort of notice that I would like to be able to measure the success of our programs at some point, or understand the success and understand the impact of the things we're doing and what the outcomes have been. So that's what I wanted to talk to Mr. Short about. But I've said it now, so I think I've covered it, and I don't have any more to add as an amendment or such. But just I'm conscious of we need to understand how successful all these programs will be.
Indeed, and possibly those that stay in operation just because of the state and federal and local support might be one of those benchmarks. Anything further from any person, either member of the committee or elected member? Was that you, Alderman Baracus?
That is, I had a question, and then Councillor Harvey's just brought up a good point. But I suppose the question would be, when we got that briefing, there was quite a few interesting statistics and diagrams that were provided, and some of them are provided in the agenda. But is that full briefing possible to be made available to us? There was just some interesting things I'd like to go over in more detail when I've got time to do so.
Yes, it will be. It can be made available to you.
Excellent,
Chairman,
thank you.
through you, we can pop it on the hub.
It'll be put on the hub, Alderman Baracus. All right. Anybody else?
I did have. Apologies, my thing just muted out for a sec. I did just wanted to respond to something that Councillor Harvey said, if I could, before we move on. I actually fully agree. I think it's it's whatever the appropriate benchmarks that we do set to measure the performance. I think it is important that we do have look to have some kind of way to measure whether or not what we're doing was successful. A, so we can, in the interest of transparency and accountability, and B, so we can learn for the future. Hopefully, this sort of thing never happens again. But I think we ultimately need to know if we're putting $1 into investing in some program to support recovery, is that dollar turning into more than $1 worth of benefit to the community or the city? And I think there should be some ways to measure that. So look, I actually completely support what Councillor Harvey just said.
Thank you.
Well, Chairman, I'm happy to move the recommendations if somebody hasn't already done that.
I did at the start.
Yes, we actually have Councillor Harvey has moved. So I'll put the recommendation which appears in the agenda for all those in. Is there anyone who is not in favour? If they could please signify that. Excellent. Well, again, thanks to the officers for an excellent report. And sorry, you're right. Thank you. And I'll move to item 6.4, which is the business grant summary. Grants that have been made under the COVID-19 scenario. There is a recommendation attached to this report. Was that you endorsing that, Alderman Sexton?
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody wish to raise anything in respect to the grant summary? Excellent. I'll put the recommendation moved by Alderman Sexton. Is there anyone who is not in favour? If they could indicate that, please. That's good. Thank you. I can see what you go through, Lord Mayor, running these meetings with this electronic. I don't envy you at all. I'll move now to committee action status reports, item 7, and ask for a recommendation for receiving and noting.
Happy to move that.
And anyone wishes to raise? Councillor Coates, are you putting that recommendation?
Yeah, I just moved it. Yeah.
Oh, you just moved it. Thanks, thanks, Councillor Harvey. Does anyone wish to raise anything on that report, please? Okay. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Or anyone, so no one's against it, so we're there. Item 8 is questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice on the open agenda?
Chairman, I have one.
Thank you.
That's a series of questions, actually, through you to Mr. Short. Given what we've heard today about concerns about the possibility of the Sydney to Hobart yacht race, series of questions relating to that. What is the likely impact on the proposed Taste of Tasmania if the Sydney to Hobart and the Melbourne to Hobart yacht races are cancelled? And I'll send these to Mr. Short. The second one is, what is the latest date by which we and prospective stall holders would need to know whether the Sydney to Hobart and Melbourne to Hobart yacht races are proceeding? Third question is, when does the Hobart City Council have to pay its contribution towards the Taste of Tasmania event that's proposed? And finally, in the event that the Taste of Tasmania is cancelled or downsized, will any contribution made by the city be refunded?
Through you, Chair, I'm very happy to take those on notice and supply the answers.
So thanks for those, Alderman Sexton. They've been noted, and you'll also send. Sorry. Thanks, Alderman Sexton. They've been noted as they were read out, but if you could send them through to the director, that would be excellent.
I shall do.
If we could have someone now to move that we go into the closed.
Happy to move that, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey.